We do have a test coming up on Wednesday over 4.1 to 4.3. My goal today is for you to feel more prepared for that test on Wednesday. For number 1, go ahead and do it on your own. You guys want to solve the equation, then make sure you check your solution. The first thing you're always going to do with a problem like this is identify the variable. Class, what's my variable?
X.
X. What is not allowing the variable to be alone? Okay, use those words that I wrote on the board over there. Which one? Subtract by 1/6. We have to use the inverse operation, the opposite operation. What's the opposite of subtract by 1/6? Add by 1/6. Class, what you do to one side, you got to do to the other side. So this cancels out. Bring down your X, drop down your equal sign. Now we're doing this on the right. Guys, what's 4/6 plus 1/6? 5/6. Remember, this should be on everyone's board, so I want you guys to make sure you're writing it down to see if you've got the correct answers or not, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and check it. Drop down that equal sign first. Remember, checking it, I'm simply taking this and rewriting it down here, okay? So you're writing X minus 1/6 equals 4/6. But do we know what X is?
Yes.
So I can get rid of that. And what is X? 5/6. Okay, so now, once again, drop down your equal sign. What's 5/6 minus 1/6? 4/6. And then just drop this down. Does 4/6 equal 4/6? Yes, so give yourself a mini check mark because it did check out. Let's go back through this. First things first, identify the variable. Y. What is not allowing the Y to be alone? Okay, multiply by 4/5 Y. Because remember, anytime you have a number right next to a letter, that means you're multiplying. So how do I get rid of multiply by 4/5, class? You do the opposite, okay? So listen, this is telling me I have to do 4/5 divided by 4/5. Am I allowed to divide fractions? What do I do? You have to do KFC. So what do I do for KFC? You keep the first, flip the second, and change the operation, okay? Now, if you look right here, there's a rule that we've learned about anytime you have to multiply a fraction. When I am multiplying a fraction, the rule we've learned, and it goes through this step here, you simply have to multiply it by the reciprocal, by the flip, okay? That rule comes because of KFC. So I can actually get rid of all this and know that my rule says I simply have to multiply by the reciprocal. What I do to one side, you've got to be fair and do it to the other side. Okay, so this 16 is basically like 16 over 1. So what happens on the left side, class?
Do you divide the 4 and the 16? The 4
This cancels out. Those become 1s, those become 1s. What's left over there? Just a Y. Now can I cross reduce anything on that side?
Yes.
Which ones?
16 and 4.
Okay, what do the 16 and 4 become?
1 and 4.
Okay, this is going to be a 1 and that's going to be a 4. Guys, what's 4 times 5? 20. Okay, so we figured out our answer, Y equals 20. But now I've got to double check it. Who can check it for me? Go ahead.
Okay, so it would be 4/5. So 4/5 with 20 in parentheses.
Good job. Since it was next to a Y,
16.
you're going to multiply it equals 16. Okay,
And then when you multiply, when you do that, it equals 60.
okay, because when we cross reduce this, it turns into a 1 and a 4. All right, so now we know this right here, 4 times 4 equals 16. Drop down your equal sign, drop down your 16, and they do equal each other. When we're solving two-step equations, it's done exactly like a one-step. It just means you have to do it 2 different times, okay? So there are 2 things that are not allowing my variable to be alone. Read me from left to right what's not allowing it to be alone, class. Multiply by 2, okay, and subtract by 5. I need more than just Taylor to tell me that. Everybody, tell me what's not allowing it to be alone. Go ahead. Multiply by 2, subtract by 5. Out of those, we've talked about best friends, the number attached to the variable. Who's the best friends right now? 2C. So don't touch these first, okay? Remember, we learned the rule, add or subtract first. How do I get rid of subtract by 5?
Add by 5.
You do the opposite or the inverse. We're going to add by 5 to both sides. These cancel out. On the left side, you're just left with 2C equals, and class, what's 9 plus 5? 14. Now, Many of you, I saw you boxed it in and said you were done. Remember, the goal is to get the variable by itself. Is my variable alone?
No.
What's not allowing it to be alone?
Multiply by 2.
Multiply by 2. How do I get rid of multiply by 2?
Divide by 2.
Okay, so here's what I saw a lot of just now. A lot of people tried to get rid of that 2 by subtracting it. Can someone explain to me why I don't want to subtract it? Why not?
Since the 2 is right next to the c, you're multiplying it.
You are correct, okay? Because this right here, he says because the 2 is next to the c, that means I multiply. And in order to get rid of multiply by 2, you don't want to subtract 2, you've got to divide by 2. So remember, we use the fraction bar to show us we're dividing by 2 on both sides, okay? This cancels out. What does c equal, class?
7.
7 is correct. Identify the variable. M. Read me from left to right what is not allowing the variable to be alone. Multiply by 3, add by 7. Of those two, these two are connected. They mean multiply, so keep it together as long as possible. How do I get rid of add by 7? Subtract by 7. Okay, in this, many people have forgotten our rule of adding and subtracting integers. Same sign, what do I do? Add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Do I have the same sign or a different sign? Same sign. Add the numbers, keep the sign. What do you get? Negative 15. A lot of you just put 15. Some people put 8 minus 7 and they said that the answer was 1. You've got to be careful. Remember the rule when adding and subtracting. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. So if yours doesn't look like this so far, go ahead and fix your board, okay? How do I get rid of multiply by 3? Divide by 3. Remember, anytime that you've got a number next to a letter like this, that means to multiply, okay? Once again, I want to see this fraction bar. The fraction bar shows me that you understand that I am dividing. These cancel out. Guys, what does m equal? Negative 5, because right here I was dividing by 1 negative. That is an odd number. The number 1 is odd. So because of that, we keep the negative, and our answer is negative 5. For this problem, it asks us to write this as an equation. Let's just talk through this. Guys, what does sum mean? Add. So I'm going to go ahead and put my add sign here. Now, whenever you have a plus sign like that, I need a number on the left and I need a number on the right. Now I'm just going to work from left to right. It says the sum of a number n. So because it comes first, I'm going to go ahead and put n right here. Then it says and 3. So 3 is going to be the next one. We know that is means equals, and then this last thing says equals negative 8. So n plus 3 equals negative 8. For this one, it says the difference of a number c and 5 equals 12. Class, what does difference mean? Subtraction. In that blue paper that I handed out to you that said words into math, okay, that should be in your notes section, it tells you the word difference means subtract. So I'm going to put subtract right there. Now, just as I did before, you need a number to the left and you need a number to the right, okay? So now let's just read from left to right. The difference of a number c. C is going to go first because I'm reading from left to right. The difference of a number c and 5 equals 12. Okay, listen. Remember my rule. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Another rule that I said, every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. This is a negative, this is a negative. Same sign or different sign, class? Same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. What do you get? Negative 12 is correct. There's something that looks a little different about this problem. This one has parentheses. Guys, what do parentheses mean? Multiply. So if I just multiply like normal, 7 times 2 I know is 14. But I can't multiply like normal because this says negative 2. Class, how many negatives are there? 1. Only 1. Is the number 1 odd or even? Odd. Anytime you have an odd number of negative numbers that you're multiplying by, your answer will always be what? It's always going to be negative. So the correct answer was negative 14. For this modeling real life problem, it says Ethan planted a tree that is 18 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, I'm underlining this to break down the information, okay? Whenever you have story problems, sometimes we can get overwhelmed, all right? So let's just break it down and make it easy. He started off with something that was 18 inches tall. Remember, your board at the end should look exactly like my board, so make sure you're fixing it if yours doesn't say that right. If the tree grows 8 inches each year, does anyone know what this word each means? Every year, okay, but what is that? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiply. The word each means multiply. So, if it's growing, this key word here says growing. Is that getting bigger or smaller?
Bigger.
So what do I think I need to do? What sign for making something bigger? Add. Okay, so I'm adding 3 inches per year. So that's 3 times y. Okay, so I need to see that in there. It doesn't have to be a y. You can make it an x or an h or whatever. I'm doing y for a year, but you could do anything. Then it says, how long will it take for the tree to reach a height of 54 inches? So I want my answer in the end to be 54 inches. So equals 54 inches. Now I want you guys to go ahead and solve for the variable. But when it says here, you must show an equation, this is what I'm talking about right here. I've got to see some kind of an equation that you're making up, and now you need to solve for the variable. Okay, so take a minute and do this on your own. Then show me your boards when you're done. So here we got, get rid of the 18 on both sides. This cancels out, 3y drops down equals 36. Got to get rid of that multiply by 3, so I'm going to divide by 3. Y equals 12. Now, a lot of people messed up on their units. This is what it says when I go back here. How long will it take for the tree to reach a height of 54 inches? Many people told me it would take 12 inches. Does that make sense? No, what should it be? 12 years. So always make sure when you're doing modeling real life, check your units, but make sure units are attached. All right, for this modeling real life, we see Dr. Kinder spent $23.85 at the bookstore on one book and some magazines. So that's his total. That total equals the book. The book was $12.60 total, plus we know he bought some magazines. There's a key word here, each. What sign do we go with each? Multiply. So I don't know how many yet. It's going to be 225 X or V or W, whatever you want it to be. Now you're trying to get this by itself, so we got to get rid of the 1260. That cancels out. When you subtract these, you get $11.25 equals 225X. How do I get rid of that multiply by 225? Divide by 225 on both sides. This cancels out. X equals 5. Now the question asks us how many magazines, so the correct answer is 5 magazines. Don't forget to study for your test on Wednesday.